Forget your former managers, ignore the ex-pros. As football fans, we all know the real experts drink in pubs. It's funny, it's argumentative, and often it's just plain wrong. Welcome to the Foss Arms Public House and welcome to the Leicester City Pubcast. Hello everyone, welcome to an emotional Foss Arms, and we are going to be talking tonight about Leicester City's fantastic FA Cup quarter-final victory over Manchester United at the weekend, which has left us all on cloud nine. And by all of us, I mean myself, Tim, and my two good friends, Killer. Good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
And Norm, good evening.
Good evening, Tim.
The 3rd of April, 1982. It is the day after the Falkland Islands have been invaded by Argentine forces. Ronald Reagan is in office in the United States. Courtney Walsh has just made his test debut for the West Indies, and Torval and Dean are going through their brilliant ice dance. McCartney and Wonder have just released Ebony and Ivory, and that was when this magnificent club of ours was last in an FA Cup semi-final. Killer, can you believe it has taken this long?
No, I can't. And the pain, actually, of 1982, because on that day, 12-year-old Killer, and I was unusually small in those days for my age, by the way. And I was
for those listeners that can't see Killer, that is a surprise.
I was a slip of a lad in those days, and I used to.
I'm sorry.
Oh no! And when I used to go and watch Leicester City in the family enclosure, my uncle used to take a wooden hoist pop crate for me to stand on. And when we went to Villa Park for the semi-final, the steward took one look at this crate, realising that the Spurs fans were next door, and said, "We can't take that in." So I was like 3.5 foot or so, it seemed. I didn't see any of the game at all. So a miserable afternoon now. But on more pressing matters, what a stonker that was, wasn't it, Norm? Pulsating.
Oh, it was magic.
Pulsating 90 minutes football. I've got to say, since the championship winning season, I simply have not been as excited about a Leicester City game than that. It really was the complete performance. You can talk about scoring 5 at the Etihad, but seriously, boys, this was the performance of the season. We played a very, very good Manchester United team. I know that Ole made a couple of changes. You know, he brought in a £35 million ex-Ajax midfielder, etc., etc. Make no mistake about it, even when he brought the big guns on, 4 of them turned up at the same time. They were utterly outclassed. It was a sensational afternoon. And I don't know about you boys, but sat at home for the FA Cup draw, watching the bumbling Dion Dublin doing his best to drag it out as far as he possibly could. Painful, wasn't it? And I'm putting the balls in the bag. We can see you all, Dion. Just pull Man City out and be done with it. It was that, wasn't it? You knew what was going to happen. We were going to get Man City, even if we got through this. A miserable afternoon out at Wembley. Riyad Mahrez hat-trick, etc., etc., etc. It didn't happen. For once, the FA Cup gods shine down on Leicester City. So all we had to do after the draw was to beat this tiring Manchester United team, and goodness me, didn't we put them to the sword. 3-1, should have been more. Kalichi, the new god of English football, let alone Leicester. The guy is just absolutely playing football from a different planet. Wilfred Ndidi, surely on the cusp of getting a knighthood. We've got our three centre backs now just look absolutely imperious. Everybody to a man was sensational. Yes, I'm excited. Yes, I know we've got to beat Southampton in the semi-final. That's going to be no gimme. Make no mistake about it. But come on, boys, this is a chance and a half. We are on the cusp of an FA Cup final, lockdown or not. I'm not bothered. It's a day to be proud to be a Leicester City fan.
I don't know about you. I was, when the final whistle went, I was welling up. I was absolutely welling up, and I didn't actually cry like I did when we won the Premier League, but I had tears in my. And I'm thinking, hold on a minute. All we've done here is qualified for a semi-final. But I think, and I tell you what, it would be interesting if there's any younger listeners that we've got. I would be intrigued to hear from any as to whether it means quite as much to them as it does to us. Because there's just something about this FA Cup, Norm, isn't there? There always has been for us. The Premier League was always unattainable. We knew we would never win the Premier League when we were growing up. No chance. But the FA Cup, we are still a big club. And we've watched Wigan win it. We've watched Coventry win it. Various others that really... Wimbledon. They won it, didn't they? And it's been the thing that's always felt the big end point for our club, but we've never got there. And then when that final whistle went, I thought, oh my goodness, we could actually do this.
Look, I think you're absolutely spot on. The FA Cup has always been the one that we always thought we could possibly win. But I really think the difference this season is that, I mean, I know in the 60s we had teams that were capable of winning it. This season, we're in the semi-final, and the reason we're so excited is because we're in a semi-final, but we have a genuine chance now of winning the FA Cup for the first time in our club's history. And can you imagine that in a 5-year period we could have won the Premier League and the FA Cup? It's just, oh my God, I'm going goose pimply just thinking about the prospect of this. And listening to Killer's passion there has just sent me over the edge again. And honestly, he just reminded me of that Norwegian commentator when Norway beat England all those years. Maggie Thatcher, you've taken a hell of a beating. It was Killer, wonderful description of the game yesterday. Brilliant.
And Kelly, just getting into the game a bit more. I mean, again, try and pick a man of the match out of that. By the way, I don't think Tielemans could have been too far. What a soldier! I remember saying earlier in the season, he does annoy me at times for being lazy. Goodness me, you cannot level that at him anymore. What an absolute soldier he has been. He's just been there for us, hasn't he, through this period of injuries. I thought he was brilliant again. Iheanacho, we'll perhaps come on to. But I also really thought brilliant performance by Sernchu. Of the three centre-backs, if it's possible to pick one out, we gave him a bit of stick last week. I thought he was an absolute titan.
Yeah, he was. And you're quite right, Tim. He was starting to look like he could be the mateway in that defensive back three if there was going to be one. Look, last week after the Sheffield United game, we did talk, didn't we, about the potential of those three. And even though I think we're all on the same page that we perhaps would prefer a 4-4-2, there's no doubt about it. When you've got three players at your football club with that much ability, why not give a back three a go? We mentioned after Sheffield United they hadn't really been tested. You can't deny for 1 second that Man U had the firepower to test those back three. Absolutely didn't break sweat, did they? And even on the Man U goal, and I'll doff my cap, it was a good goal. United scored a good goal, and there's not a team in the league would have defended against that. That was just one of those goals that you're going to concede at this level. But after that, seriously, name me one chance. They didn't really have one. And even on the long-range free kick, I'm thinking to myself, I know Fernandes is good, but there's got to be a hell of a strike to beat Kasper Schmeichel from there. And of course, he didn't do it. And as the game kind of like moved on to the 80 minutes, I kind of felt like all of a sudden thinking, I just don't feel like there's any threat here at all. They look a well-beaten team. They almost like they've looked at us, they've looked at that back three, they've looked at Kasper Schmeichel, and they've thought to themselves, no, no, I'm afraid this lot aren't budging. We're going out. And they did.
Yeah, and on Iheanacho, Norm, I mean, look, we've had 4 years of him being not very good at all. I think, we still got to just say, is this just a purple patch? But if it is what a purple patch, and I don't think I can remember a player going for so long, so underperforming, to such a superstar, to the point that, Rodgers has got a real big headache now when Maddison and Barnes are fit. He really has, because the shape of the team has changed to accommodate Iheanacho. And much as I think Vardy's been brilliant, and anyone out there writing Vardy off, just don't do it. You know he's going to come back and haunt you, and he's on his way back. Brilliant performance from him again, I thought. But, Norm, Iheanacho at the moment is the main goal threat.
Yeah, I mean, Iheanacho has just looked sensational, hasn't it? And I think we've got to question ourselves a little bit. I mean, clearly he shows all this kind of promise in training, etc. But perhaps all he really needed is a bit of a run in the side and get his confidence up. I mean, he has looked a different player since he has had this run, since he's scoring goals. He's expecting to score, isn't he? And I think that's the difference. He's clearly a confidence player. And I tell you what, his interview again was passionate and came from the heart. He seems to be a very, very nice young man, and I am desperate for him to continue to do well. I think what you were saying about Maddison and Barnes as well, very, very good point. I'm sure Maddison would come into this system instead of Perez, but goodness me, Harvey Barnes has got to be wondering about how he's going to be fitting into the side at the moment, which, I mean, what great problems to have for Rodgers and the side. I mean, it's just superb, isn't it? I just don't know. I'm just full of admiration for this team at the moment, no doubt about it.
Yeah, just astounding as every week, going by different strength to strength. And Killer, the other thing for me, and for me, part of that emotional reaction after that match yesterday, what was because it's the FA Cup. The other part of it, though, I think on reflection was, we have just well beaten Man U. And we have said on this podcast a few times, and I particularly, I honestly think we're a better team than Man U. And then you have to look back over the last 2 years and say, well, they finished above us last year and they are still above us this year. And actually, we pretty much never beat them. And you have, somewhere along the line, you have to give Solskjaer some credit there for if he's getting more out of a lesser group of players. But I thought with that game yesterday, yes, Fernando was out. Yes, Shaw was out. And by the way, he's been fantastic. But yet again, as we have, I think I'm right in saying, pretty much all season, we had 4 walk-in first-team players not playing yesterday. Half of our team was missing, and we've wiped the floor with Man United, and that's Justin, Ricardo, Maddison and Barnes. And notwithstanding what Norm's just said, I think most people would say they are starters. The future for this club, and that was the other part for me, the future, therefore, Killer, for the club, even if we were to lose a player in this summer, goodness me, if anyone mentions the big 6 again, they're surely going to get laughed out of town, aren't they?
You'd have thought so. Yeah, look, the one thing I would say about Manchester United, and the one worry that I had with regards to them, apart from Bruno Fernandes, is I think if you're looking at best 11s, I think we're better than Manchester United. I mean, I will make that very, very clear. I think on our day we can beat them, and that's all well and good. What I would say is, as you would expect with a team of their resources, by the way, they've just signed a new shirt deal for 235 million quid. That just gives you the idea, the depth of the resources. They've obviously got a bigger squad. They've obviously got more quality in the squad. That's where I think, and the reason why I think they'll finish above us in the league. When we lose Maddison, we have to bring in Perez. No disrespect to him, but he's just nowhere on the same page. Rashford doesn't play, they bring in Mason Greenwood. You can just see where they have a little bit more depth in terms of their squad. There's no doubt about it, Tim. This Leicester team, I think, with another attacking midfielder, and Norm's absolutely spot on. This whole Iheanacho thing has changed the debate, isn't it? Because actually, are Leicester City going to go out in the summer and spend 40-50 million on another striker, where that striker might turn around and go, Brendan, just a quickie, where am I going to play? Because I'm not going to get ahead of Jamie Vardy. And actually, Vardy's probably the number 2 striker at the minute, isn't he? Because we've got this fella's absolutely on fire. The other thing I would say, just finally on the Iheanacho debate, you cannot be fluky at this level. This isn't Sunday morning football where you can get a couple of tap-ins, get bought a pint after the game. You can't be fluky at this level. This is the most extreme competitive football in the world. He is operating at this level because he has got undoubted ability. And I am sure now, for all Leicester fans, there isn't a Leicester fan now in the world that isn't going to turn around now and say, I cannot question his ability. We now know he has it in his locker to operate at this level. Whether he can find the consistency to do that, we'll wait and see. But when I think of other players that have passed through this football club, people like Musa, Slimani, for instance, we never saw that. We never ever saw an A game that really got you salivating and thought, yeah, he can do it. Iheanacho can do it. And now he's got the opportunity to become a Leicester City great. And who would have thought we were ever going to say that 3 months ago?
Absolutely. And just finally, Norm, very quickly, I mean, we'll look ahead to it in future weeks, but Southampton, and interestingly, we knocked Southampton out on the way in 1982. Weirdly, as a little omen there, but it's the draw we would have wanted, isn't it?
Look, there's not, for a cliche, there's no easy games, is there, in the FA Cup? But if you've got a choice between Southampton, Chelsea, or Manchester City, of course you're going to pick Southampton. I'm sure they'll see it as an opportunity as well. But goodness me, if we go in with the attitude we did against Man United, we're not going to go in expecting to. Well, we're going to go in expecting to win the game, or certainly trying our best to. But we're not going to go in like overconfident or anything like that. And if we play like we can, that there is absolutely no doubt that sort of 8.5, 9 times out of 10, Leicester City play in the FA Cup final this year.
What a thought for all of our fans, and something to really, really get excited for over the next few weeks. Can't wait. Really, really looking forward to that. We've looked back a little bit on this podcast from time to time, and I'm going to just tell you a story in our Bad Trips, Good Hiding series, going all the way back to 2003, not quite as far as 1982, but on a terrible, terrible trip that might make us just appreciate what we have today again. So Norm and I, actually, we're going away for my birthday weekend. It's the 25th of October, 2003. And we were going away with our girlfriends, and we booked a hotel in Bristol. Nice little couples weekend
Sounds
away.
awful already.
Well, don't worry, it got a lot worse. So we thought, well, it'll be nice to go away with. They were very, very excited about it, down to Bristol. So fantastic. And then in the week leading up to it, we found out that there were extra tickets available for Wolves away. Why wouldn't you want to go away to Wolves? Wolves 19th in the division at the time, and City, as was our want, rock bottom. So we each had a careful conversation with our girlfriends that resulted in a compromise of us still travelling from Leicester to Bristol on the Friday, but then coming back on the Saturday to go to the match at Molineux. Difficult conversations, fair to say, but Norm and I, pleased as punch, got up very, very early on Saturday morning, made our way to Molineux. First thing that annoyed me that day is Wolves were sponsored by Doritos. Everyone knows there's only one brand of crisps in the Midlands. So that was the day off to a really, really bad start. But then suddenly things looked up. Double from big Les Ferdinand, and then Ricardo Skimica ridiculously chipped in. And Leicester City were 3-0 up at half-time. Absolutely cock-a-hoop in the away end. Fantastic stuff. And I was texting our mate, another of our mates, John, and he was playing golf that day and having a good round. Texted us back saying, what a day this is, 3-0 up at half-time. Cheers for the text, boys, and I'm having a good round of golf as well. Fantastic. Shortly after half-time, Colin Cameron scored for Wolves. And I'll never forget this, because loads of Leicester fans taunted Wolves with sort of mock applause and the old... and myself included, the usual gestures and all the rest of it. And I remember Norm turning to me and going, shouldn't be doing that, you know. And I'm like, why not? What's the pro with 3-1 up, mate? Relax. Second one for Cameron. Alex Ray, 3-3. And with 4 minutes to go, Kamara brought the roof off Molineux as we went down 4-3. Absolute second half turnaround. 3-0 up at half time and to 4-3 loss at full time. Defence including John Curtis, Alan Rodgers, as well as Sumika. It perhaps isn't a massive surprise, but what an absolutely shocking day out. We were texting our mate John, whose round of golf totally collapsed from a fabulous first nine to a disastrous back nine, as he also found out what was going on. So even the misery was felt from afar. And then we got back home, well, back to Bristol. So a nice journey all the way down to Bristol. Absolutely foul mood. And before we met our girlfriends, we thought, we've got a bit of time before dinner. Went and hit the bar. Such as when they came down for dinner, we were absolutely trashed. Both of us ended up in huge arguments, difficult car journeys home. Suffice it to say, neither Norm nor I are with those wonderful young ladies anymore. So that was a bad time for us, and it shows today how we have to enjoy these wonderful moments in which we live. So, Killer, we've been talking a little bit about Kelechi Iheanacho and his rise from the ashes, and I think you have been thinking about other zero to heroes, haven't you?
Yeah, that's right. We've got a couple of excellent suggestions from one of our avid listeners, somebody called Chris Anderson, who actually sent in a picture of himself sporting a Trumpwell's IPA T-shirt, which I think was a
good on you, Chris.
Nice feature. As he's listening, he's going, "No, I didn't."
He didn't, because they don't exist
yet. Okay, but he came up with a suggestion. He says, why don't you sort of delve back into the archives and come up with those players that went from zero to hero, those ones that just weren't very good at the beginning or came into the club with some baggage, and everybody was a bit sceptical about them. But by the time they've hung their boots up or left the club, they were heroes. And I thought this was a really, really good segment. So I offered it out across social media and I got some excellent responses. First and foremost, we'll just go through them, and maybe you two guys can chip in as well. Chris Anderson himself, he came up with Riyad Mahrez on the basis, and I think he's absolutely spot on. You tend to forget when he first joined the club, he looked like he was just a bit of a fancy Dan footballer, didn't he?
Yeah.
Didn't look like it. Certainly didn't look like he was going to end up being, without question, the most skillful player that the club's ever had. So I think that's a good one. Alex Bexon he's come up with an excellent one. Jamie Vardy, because again we forget at the beginning he looked totally out of his depth. I think.
Well, he was ready to quit, wasn't he? Sorry, Norm. I was just going to say, there's that famous picture, isn't there, of Vardy and Kane on the bench when neither of them could get in the side. Kane was on loan.
Yeah.
I mean, Vardy nearly quit, didn't he? To be, he was Nigel. I think the chair. I think one of the chairman or Nigel Pearson persuaded him to carry on, and that he'd make it. And thank goodness he did.
Yeah, I've got it from a reliable source, by the way, that it was Shakespeare who he had the conversation with.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But yeah, and I remember being in the pub and turning round, sort of cynically saying, "We've wasted $1 million on. Why did we spend $1 million on a non-league player?" Because you'd had a look at him, and obviously he was fast, but so was Cole Lewis. I don't remember him playing for a top football team. So, but obviously, subsequently gone on to become the legend, of course. Ricky Krilos as well. He's come up with Kelechi Iheanacho. I mean, and that was actually before the game against Manchester United. So, just got to say, at this stage, he is moving into hero status, isn't he? Rob Berryman. Now, I feel a bit bad about this one because I was in Pen 3 when Jimmy Willis made his debut. And I was one of the people that was leading that pretty horrible chorus of effectively "Go Away, Willis." and actually, Actually, I don't know if you remember, but in the famous playoff final against Derby, he was man of the match.
Yeah, he was good.
He ended up being all right, didn't he?
Yeah,
Paul Whittaker's come up with an excellent one. David Speedy, because obviously at the time he was hated, wasn't he, by Leicester fans? And I remember when Brian Little signed him, you got the feeling he was going to win over the Leicester City supporters because he was a bit like Paul Dickoff. He just played full-blooded football. But there's no doubt that by the time he left the club, he was well thought of. Now, Colin Bourne's come up with a good one, Tim. Danny Simpson. And citing that when he first came to the club, again, didn't look like he had a great deal to offer.
Well, I mean, it was the Norwich game, wasn't it, when Ranieri switched out the fullback. So he didn't actually start the title-winning season.
No. But
switched both fullbacks, didn't he?
Yeah.
And the same game, he realised we were letting too much in, and then the rest is history for him, isn't it?
Well, he just turned out to be a brilliant defender. I mean, I think sometimes there was a bit too much asked of him in terms of going forward and stuff. And almost the way that we used to play was a bit lopsided, wasn't it? Because Christian Fuchs would bomb on and he just wouldn't. But that was absolutely fine and it worked. Steve Extall, I think, has come up with the best one because I think this is brilliant. Martin O'Neill.
Well, hold on. This has got to be good to beat David Speedy. I thought that Speedy one.
No, I
hate.
Well, if you be quiet a minute, I'll just let you know exactly what it is.
I'll get your word.
Martin O'Neill. Come on! You can't deny when Sheffield United and everybody's turned on him. That was probably. I think when you talk about a zero, Norm, I think he had hit rock bottom that game. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I think you're right. I think that's an excellent one. Really, a really good shout, Martin O'Neill. But he did turn into an absolute hero, didn't he?
Absolute hero, and of course, never ever forgot that whole Sheffield United thing. He never forgot it, and I'm still convinced it was still a major reason why he left. He was just a bit of a grudge bearer. But obviously, that's perfectly within his rights.
Killer, just on that, do you know that he said, because around that time he got tons of negative letters from Leicester fans, which really doesn't sit well, does it now? But he got tons, and he responded over a period of months to every single letter.
Really?
A bit of I told you to be patient.
Brilliant. Now, Ricks, who everybody will remember fondly as the person who wasn't at the Aston Villa away game.
It was in Wood Green
at the time, but he's come up with a good one. Patrick Kisnorbo, because don't forget with Kisnorbo, so rubbish was he, and so much of a transformation that there was actually a song made about his transformation. Does anybody remember the words? Not.
I don't remember that.
Yeah. Well, let's just say he used to be, but now he's dynamite. So I'll leave you to put that little rhyming couplet together, Tim, and see what you come up with. Andy Carey's come up with Ian Ormonroyd, which I think's a decent one. I don't ever remember him being that good for Leicester, but he definitely sort of won the Leicester faithful over a period of time. Now, Gaz Donahue's come up with a good one, and I forgot about this, and he's absolutely spot on. When we initially signed Tony Cottee, he just couldn't get fit. We ended up having to ship him out on loan to Birmingham. So he looked like he was just going to be a bit of a flop. And then, the rest history. Again, he was a major signing. Glenn Richards, he actually came up with Harry Kane. Now, Glenn's much, much more intelligent than I am. And I turned around to him and I went, Kane was rubbish down here, but has obviously subsequently become world class for Spurs. And he turned around and said, in this voice, "You didn't say that though, did you? You didn't say you have to be an actual hero down at Leicester City." I went, well, it's a Leicester City podcast, Glenn. No, you didn't say that.
He's a hero for England.
I don't know about you guys. I've got a lot of time for Harry Kane. But once the dust has settled on that little row, Ben Richards came up with Mendy, which I think is a great shout.
Yeah.
Because let's be honest, Tim, we were shaking our heads in the summer, mate, weren't we, when he was offered a 25-year contract?
We were.
The one I'm going to go for, I think Martin O'Neill for me is the pick of them. The player that I had serious doubts about when he first joined him, watched him and shook my head thinking, oh no, he's rubbish. And then just turned into an enormous folk hero. That's Jerry Taggart.
Yeah, I don't remember the start of his career particularly. It was
dodgy.
because just a legend really at the end. But did he not start well then?
No, it looked really, really, really dodgy. But obviously with Martin O'Neill's excellent coaching, got through it. So anyway, thanks to everybody that responded, and thanks for those excellent nominations. And Tim,
brilliant.
what have you come up with on this one?
The obvious one for me would be Ranieri.
Yeah.
And I remember Lineker tweeting something pretty witty as he usually does, but reasonably unpleasant, aimed at same old. Couldn't we do better?
Well, it was just Ranieri really ? Wasn't it? That's what it was.
That's it. Yeah.
The Ranieri really, that was it. Yeah, and but fair due to you, no, because I was in that camp. I thought, oh, for goodness' sake, this guy's he's not really done a great deal. Has he? I remember you, though, Norm, going against the grain on that, going, actually, he could be all right. And, well, certainly don't need to add any more to that. What about you, Norm?
Well, I've tried to go a little bit, left field, really. And I've actually gone for Leicester as a club just prior to those final 9 games of the 2014-15 season. We'd got promoted the year before. We'd had a disastrous season, cut adrift at the bottom with 9 games to go. And then from that moment, to the end of that season, stayed up with a game to spare incredibly. Undoubtedly the best great escape ever in the Premier League. And then to continue that with the help of Ranieri and your hero, Tim, throughout that next season, and then ultimately to win the Premier League. That they were heroes of Leicester, but not only that, and for me, they were heroes of the sporting world.
Yeah, I think that's a great shout, actually. I often mention this. I don't know if you guys remember this, but Leicester City, just before that 9-game run, we had played at home to Hull, and it was an absolute must-win game. And it was 0-0, and there was about 10 minutes left, and we just didn't look bothered. And I came out of that the game, and I was absolutely numb. And the only way I was going to get through the evening was by having a gallon of Trumpwell's IPA. And I remember sitting in the Foss Arms, and I think I might have turned around to you, Norm, and said, "That's just rubbish, isn't it? It's taken us 10 years to get back in the Premier League, and it's going to take us 7 months to get out of it again." It was horrible. So you're quite right. Quite. If you turn around to me at that stage and said, "It's going to be all right, Killer. Number 1, here's pint number 9 of your Trumpwell's IPA. And point number 2, not only are we going to stay up, but next year we're going to win the league." Absolutely.
That just sounds wrong, doesn't it?
Even you, even you had turned around and went, "Don't worry, Killer. Put your hand on my shoulder. It's going to be all right. I've got a prediction." I might have turned around and went, just get out. Just leave.
Be like back in August, Killer, saying, "You know what? We're going to win the FA Cup this year."
Do you know what? My mate messaged me the other day and said, "Who's that fella on the podcast who keeps banging on about the FA Cup?" Seriously. If you're listening, it's Tim. And he cried like a baby after the game. Anyway, Chris Anderson, thanks very much for this. He actually came up with another suggestion, and to talk about that, I'm going to hand over to Norm.
Yeah, thanks for this, Chris. Best Leicester hat trick, which I think is a sensational thing to discuss. And obviously, Chris has come up with his own thought, which has given me little scope to try and find much better, given that he, I believe probably quite correctly, selected Stan Collimore's hat trick on Collimore's debut and Emil Heskey's final game for Leicester in March 2000, and it was a superb hat trick. And frankly, Chris, I think that is an absolutely an outstanding choice. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I remember that game vividly. But the thing I remember most is at the end of it, thinking that is the best Leicester team and performance I am likely to see in my lifetime.
Yeah, definitely.
Heskey, that was Heskey's last game. So he'd gone by the time we played again, and it's like, you know what, that was like the pinnacle. And goodness me, how pleased I am to say I was wrong. But, you know, at the time, yeah, unbelievable. And yeah, goodness me, Collymore on that day was absolutely unplayable. Now, to try and challenge that, because I think that is just was frankly a superb hat trick. I have gone a little bit outside the box to try and give you guys something to vote on, because I want you to tell me whether I can outdo Chris on this. So I've come up with two that I want to challenge Collymore's hat trick with. The first one I wasn't alive for. It was actually 92 years ago in 1928, and it was a hat trick by Arthur Chandler, an all-time goal-scoring legend of the club against Portsmouth. Now, he didn't bother just getting the one hat trick. He decided to get two that day. Now, legend has it that his fifth goal happened as 5 swans flew across Filbert Street. Now, the reason I've selected this as one of the best hat tricks is a few minutes later, apparently a 6th swan flew over, egging Channy to score a 6th, and he duly obliged. So I think anyone that's like listening to a swan and scoring a double hat trick when instructed, surely, lads, that is going to be up there with the finest hat tricks that this club has ever seen. My second one, again, little left field. I'm going back 39 years, and I was at this game, so I remember it very well. And that was a 6-0 victory versus Carlisle. Now, there were 2 hat tricks in this game, both by different players. The first one was Steve Linex, and he scored 2 penalties in his hat trick. Lineker had 2 goals himself. We were then awarded a 3rd penalty, which Lineker basically insisted on taking, and Linex kindly obliged, thus meaning it was a game that 2 Leicester players scored hat tricks in. What amuses me a little bit about this is that despite Linex allowing Lineker to score the 2nd hat trick of the game, Lineker decided he was going to have the match ball, and poor old Steve Linex had to be given another ball apparently that was found somewhere to sort of celebrate his hat trick. So I know I'm clutching at straws here, lads, but can either of those trump Collymore's hat trick?
No, I think you've missed one out. I'm going to challenge the Collymore hat trick. Collymore's first goal was sensational. His second one, if I remember, was a header. The third one, he scuffed it. But I'm going to challenge it. Iosi Perez against Southampton in the 9-0. His 3 goals are off this planet, I think. All 3.
All right, we got 4 to vote on then.
I wasn't expecting having to vote myself against mine.
Which one? The challenge. This double hat trick with the rubbish swan story which you've just made up.
Thanks for the positivity. If it was anyway, and on that note, I'm going to take the first vote then on my little section. Thanks. I am going to say the Perez choice. Yeah, great hat trick. It was in a 9-0. I'm not having that. I am going to vote. I'm going to go with Chris. I think Collymore's hat trick was the best hat trick ever by a Leicester player, and for what it meant at the time and on a debut, absolutely got to be Collymore for me. Tim, who are you going for?
I'm going for Arthur Chandler because it's Leicester folklore. That story, that has done its time. It can't not be true because it's too perfect. And,
of course it's true.
So I'm going for Channy.
Okay, I'm gonna go with Norm. The Stan Collymore hat trick. If for no other reason than I got hopelessly drunk after the game and spent the whole evening ringing people up, and when they're answering, just singing, "We've got Stan Carlymore, we've got Stan," to the point where they went, yeah. Do you enjoy the game, mate? "We got Stan Carlymore." It was an amazing hat-trick, no doubt about it.
Well done, Chris. That's a great shout, and Collymore. Well done, Stanley.
Yeah, thank you for that, Chris. And if any of you have any other ideas that you wanted to discuss or things you want to throw in, it's Leicester City Pubcast at gmail.com. So we're just coming towards the end of tonight. And just to let you know, there is no show next week because it's an international weekend. We're just going to briefly look ahead, very, very briefly. Our next game killer is a nice, easy one against Man City.
Yeah, bank of 3 points. Look, we won't go into it in any detail because obviously, as you say, it's a couple of weeks away. We don't know who's going to be available. We don't exactly know a great deal about it at all, really, apart from we know that there's going to be a very strong Manchester City team. They're coming here as one of the best teams in Europe, but by the same token, if everybody stays fit, this Leicester City back three, the goal machine that we've got, the best holding midfielder in the Premier League, we've got a chance, and it's going to be a great game of football.
And Norm, just very briefly, one of the results that really has been fantastic for us this weekend, particularly than being 3-0 up, was West Ham dropping those points. The league table's looking great going into that Man City game.
Yeah, it does give us a little bit of leeway, doesn't it? So even if what I'm sure a lot of people think will happen happens, we've still got a bit of a cushion going into the game after that, which is of course West Ham. So I'm excited about the Man City game now after that FA Cup win. I think what have we got to fear? That's going to be a massive confidence boost. I'm looking forward to it immensely.
Could be a warm-up for the FA Cup. We won't get too far ahead of ourselves. So look at the predictor table then. Norm and myself both had us to beat Man U. Killer, you thought it might swing Man U's way. So a point each for Norm and I, leaving Killer on 12, myself on 18 and Norm on 22. So there's no show next week, guys. So let's have your Man City predictions, please, starting with Norm.
God, this is the only game this season that I really, really think we probably won't win. So therefore, I am going to predict us to win. But I've got to go for us. I'm going for. My head says 1-1. My heart says 2-1 Leicester. I'm going to go 2-1 Leicester. Come on,
Killer.
Kalichi Iheanacho is going to rip John Stones to shreds. He's going to bag another hat-trick. It's going to be 3-1 Leicester.
You're going 3-1 Leicester?
Yeah.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. Well played.
Because I really don't want Norm to win this predictor table, I am going to predict a Man City win. But I'm going to go 2-1 Man City. But I'll tell you what, Maddison sounds like he might be back for that. We are going to give them a right good game. We really are going to give them a good game. Really looking forward to that one. Thanks to Killer and thanks to Norm. And we will catch up with you in 2 weeks' time to review the Man City game amongst lots of other nonsense and great chat. Thanks ever so much for listening. Enjoy the next 2 weeks reveling in this. Thanks for listening, everyone. If you enjoyed the Leicester City Pubcast, please subscribe and tell everyone about it. If you hated the Leicester City Pubcast, please keep it to yourselves. See you next week.